Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Easy English Talk. I'm your host, Jason, and I'm very happy to have you here with us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia, and thank you so much for listening. We're excited because today's topic is something many English learners struggle with.
Yes, absolutely. Today we're going to talk about something very important, how to think in English. Not just how to speak English, not just how to learn grammar, but how to actually think in English in your mind.
That's right. Many learners can understand English and they know many words, but when they want to speak, their mind feels slow or empty or confused.
Exactly. You may feel like you first think in your own language, then translate into English, and only then you speak. And this makes speaking slow, stressful, and sometimes scary.
And that's totally normal, by the way. Every language learner feels this at the beginning.
But the good news is thinking in English is a skill. It's not a talent, and it's not something only native speakers can do.
Yes, it's something you can train, step by step, with simple daily practice.
So in this episode, we'll show you what thinking in English really means, why it feels hard, and how you can start doing it in your everyday life.
We'll share practical tips, simple exercises, and even small examples you can try right after this episode.
So relax, enjoy the episode, and remember you don't need perfect English to start thinking in English.
Exactly. You just need a small step, and we'll take that step together today.
All right, let's begin. So, Julia, let's talk about why thinking in English feels so hard for many learners.
Yes, and first, I want to say something important. If thinking in English feels difficult for you, it does not mean you are bad at languages.
Exactly. It simply means your brain is already very strong, just in another language.
Right. Your brain has spent many years thinking, dreaming, planning, and solving problems in your native language. So naturally, that language feels fast and automatic.
But when you try to use English, your brain suddenly has to work in a new way, and that feels slow and uncomfortable at first.
One big reason is mental translation. Most learners think in their own language first, then translate into English.
And that creates a three-step process. First you think, then you translate, and only then you speak.
That takes time, and while your brain is busy translating, the conversation is already moving on.
That's when learners start feeling nervous, blocked, or behind.
Another reason is fear of mistakes. Many learners are afraid to think in English because they want to think correctly.
Yes, they think. What if my grammar is wrong? What if I choose the wrong word?
So instead of thinking freely, they start checking every sentence in their head like a grammar test.
And that kills fluency, because fluency needs flow, not perfection.
Another problem is that learners often try to think in complex English too early.
Right? They try to think in long, advanced sentences when their brain is not ready yet.
That's like trying to run before you learn how to walk.
And finally, there's one more reason: lack of exposure.
Yes, if you don't hear English every day, your brain doesn't get enough patterns to copy.
So your brain stays more comfortable in your native language, because that's what it hears the most.
So to summarize, thinking in English is difficult because your brain is trained in another language, because you translate mentally, because you fear mistakes, because you think too complex too soon, and because you don't hear English enough.
But here's the good news. All of these problems can be fixed with simple, daily training.
And that's exactly what we'll talk about next.
So now that we understand why thinking in English is difficult, let's answer an important question. What does thinking in English actually mean?
Yes, Because many learners imagine something very complicated when they hear that phrase.
They think it means thinking in perfect grammar, using advanced words, or speaking like a native speaker.
But that's not what it means at all.
Thinking in English simply means that your first thought comes in English even if it's simple, even if it's not perfect.
For example, instead of thinking, I'm hungry in your own language and then translating it, your mind directly says, I'm hungry.
That's it. That's thinking in English.
It's not about being correct, it's about being direct.
Another important thing is that thinking in English is not always in full sentences.
Yes, sometimes it's just words or short phrases.
Like coffee, too hot, need sleep, busy day.
Native speakers do that too. Our brains don't always think in perfect sentences, we think in ideas.
So thinking in English means thinking in ideas using English, not thinking in grammar rules.
Exactly. Your brain should be focused on meaning, not on structure.
Another part of thinking in English is thinking with images connected to English words.
For example, when you hear the word apple, you should see the apple in your mind, not the word in your own language.
That creates a direct connection between the English word and the real world.
And that connection is what makes thinking faster.
So thinking in English means three things. First, your thoughts come directly in English, not through translation. Second, your thoughts are simple and idea-based, not grammar-based. Third, your English words are connected to images and real meaning.
And the beautiful thing is, this is something you can train.
Step by step, day by day.
And in the next section, we'll talk about something that blocks this process very strongly, translation.
Yes, let's talk about how translation blocks fluency. So, Julia, let's talk about one of the biggest enemies of fluency translation.
Yes, translation feels helpful at first, but later it becomes a problem.
Exactly. In the beginning, translation is like a bridge. It helps you understand English.
But if you stay on that bridge too long, you never fully arrive in English.
And here's why translation blocks fluency.
When you translate, your brain is doing 3 jobs at the same time. First, thinking in your own language, then translating into English, and then checking if it sounds correct.
That's a lot of work for your brain, especially in a real conversation.
And while your brain is busy, the conversation is already moving forward.
That's when you feel slow, nervous, or silent.
Another problem is that translation is often not accurate.
Yes, many expressions don't translate directly from one language to another.
So you may create sentences that are grammatically okay but sound unnatural.
And that can make you feel insecure about your English.
Also, translation keeps your brain emotionally connected to your native language, not to English.
So English never becomes automatic. It always feels like work.
But fluency happens when English feels natural, not when it feels like a math problem.
So to become fluent, we don't want to kill translation. We want to slowly reduce it.
We want to move from translation to direct thinking.
And the way to do that is not by force, but by training your brain with simple English input and simple English thoughts.
And that's exactly what we'll talk about next, how to train your brain to start thinking in English naturally.
Let's do that. All right, so now let's talk about how to actually train your brain to think in English.
Yes, and the key word here is simple.
Exactly. Don't start with big ideas or long sentences. Start with small daily thoughts.
Because your brain learns best when the task is easy and repeated often.
So the first exercise is this. Start thinking in English about what you are doing right now.
For example, if you're making tea, think, I'm making tea. If you're walking, think, I'm walking. If you're tired, think, I'm tired.
Simple present thoughts connected to real life.
Another exercise is naming objects around you.
Look around and think. Table, window, phone, book, chair.
This trains your brain to connect English words directly to the world.
Not to your native language, but to reality.
You can also think about your plans in English.
Like, I need to study. I will call my friend. I have a meeting.
And later, you can think about your past.
I studied English. I watched a movie. I had dinner.
This trains your brain in different tenses naturally without grammar study.
And here's something very important. Talk to yourself in English.
Yes, use your inner voice in English.
You can even whisper if you want.
It may feel strange at first, but it's very powerful.
Because you are practicing without pressure, without listeners, without fear.
And over time, your brain starts choosing English automatically.
So remember small thoughts, daily practice, real life.
That's how you train your brain to think in English.
And next, we'll show you another important trick, thinking in phrases instead of grammar.
Yes, that makes thinking even faster.
Now let's talk about something that can make thinking in English much faster, thinking in phrases, not in grammar rules.
Yes, because many learners think like this. Is this present simple or present continuous? Is this countable or uncountable? Is this correct grammar?
And while you are thinking about grammar, you are not thinking about meaning.
And that slows everything down.
So instead of thinking in rules, we should think in ready-made phrases.
Phrases are groups of words that native speakers use again and again.
For example, I'm used to, it depends on, I'm looking forward to. That makes sense.
When you learn these phrases, you don't need to build a sentence, you just use it.
It's like having shortcuts in your brain.
Let's give a small example.
Okay, Julia, ask me a question.
All right, Jason, do you like studying in the morning or at night?
It depends on my schedule.
See, Jason didn't think about grammar, he used a phrase.
Exactly. And that makes my response fast and natural.
Another example. If someone invites you somewhere, you can say, "That sounds great," or "I'm not sure," or "Let me think about it."
You don't need to build a long sentence, just use the phrase.
So when you learn English, don't only learn single words. Learn phrases.
Write them down, listen for them, repeat them, and use them.
And then start thinking in those phrases.
That's when your English becomes faster and more natural.
And next, we'll show you how visual thinking can help you think in English even faster.
Yes, let's talk about using images to think in English. So now let's talk about a very powerful technique, visual thinking.
Yes, this means using pictures in your mind instead of translations.
When you hear an English word, your brain should see an image, not another word.
For example, when you hear dog, you should see a dog, not the word in your native language.
This creates a direct connection between English and meaning.
And that makes thinking faster and more natural.
Our brains are very good at remembering images.
Much better than remembering abstract words or translations.
So when you learn a new word, always connect it to a picture or a real object.
If you learn the word rain, imagine rain falling.
If you learn the word smile, imagine someone smiling.
You can also use visual thinking when you think about your day.
Instead of thinking, I went to the market in your language, imagine yourself at the market and think, I went to the market.
So you are replaying your life like a movie, but with English subtitles in your mind.
That's a great way to describe it.
And the more you do this, the more your brain starts choosing English automatically.
Because English becomes connected to your experiences, not just to books.
So remember, pictures first, words second, translation never.
And next, we'll talk about how listening and shadowing can train your brain even more.
Yes, let's talk about listening.
Now, let's talk about something very important, listening.
Yes, because before you can think well in English, you need to hear a lot of English.
Your brain learns language patterns by listening again and again.
Just like children learn their first language.
And one very powerful listening method is called shadowing.
Shadowing means listening to English and repeating it at the same time or just after you hear it.
You don't stop the audio. You don't analyze grammar. You just listen and copy.
Your goal is not perfection. Your goal is rhythm and flow.
Let's explain how learners can practice shadowing.
First, choose a short audio, maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
It could be a podcast, a YouTube video, or a short story.
Listen once without speaking, just understand the idea.
Then listen again and repeat what you hear.
Try to copy the speed, the pronunciation, and the intonation.
You don't need to understand every word.
Your brain is learning patterns, not rules.
And over time, these patterns become your thinking patterns.
So when you want to think something, your brain already knows how it should sound.
That's how listening builds thinking.
So if you want to think in English, surround yourself with English.
Listen while walking, cooking, driving, or resting.
Let English become the background music of your life.
And your brain will slowly switch to English mode.
Next, we'll talk about common mistakes learners make when trying to think in English.
Yes, let's talk about that. So now, let's talk about some common mistakes learners make when trying to think in English.
Yes, and if you hear yourself in these mistakes, don't worry. They are very normal.
The first mistake is trying to be perfect.
Learners think they must think in correct grammar before they can think in English.
So they stop, check, correct, and worry. And that stops fluency.
The second mistake is thinking too complex too early.
They try to think in long, advanced sentences instead of simple thoughts.
But the brain needs to build fluency step by step.
The third mistake is memorizing words without using them.
They learn lists of vocabulary, but they don't think with those words.
So the words stay in the notebook, not in the brain.
Another mistake is not listening enough.
They focus only on speaking or grammar, but not on input.
But your brain needs input before it can produce output.
And finally, a very big mistake is giving up too early.
Thinking in English feels uncomfortable at first, and many learners stop when it feels hard.
But that discomfort is a sign that your brain is changing.
So if it feels strange, slow, or awkward, that means...
Exactly.
And next we'll share a simple daily routine to help you practice all of this easily.
Yes, let's do that. Now, Julia, let's talk about a simple daily routine that can really help learners start thinking in English naturally.
Yes, the key is consistency. Even a few minutes every day is better than one long study session once in a while.
So here's a simple routine you can try. Start your morning with 5 minutes of thinking in English.
Yes, for example, you can describe what you're doing while getting ready. I'm brushing my teeth, I'm making breakfast, I'm taking a shower.
Then during the day, take mini practice moments.
Like when you're walking, cooking, or traveling, think in English. I am walking to the market. I am cooking rice. I need to buy milk.
It doesn't need to be perfect, just short, real-life thoughts.
And in the evening, spend 5 minutes reviewing your day in English.
For example, I studied English. I watched a video. I spoke with a friend.
You can even write it down or say it out loud to yourself.
By repeating this daily, your brain starts to choose English automatically.
And remember, small, simple steps every day are more effective than forcing yourself to think in perfect sentences.
Exactly. Start simple, stay consistent, and gradually your thinking in English will become natural.
Next, we'll talk about motivation, confidence, and some final advice to keep going.
Yes, that's an important part of the journey. All right, Julia, before we finish, let's talk about motivation and confidence, because thinking in English can feel challenging at first.
Yes, Jason, it's normal to feel nervous or slow, but remember, every small effort counts.
Exactly. Don't compare yourself to native speakers. Compare yourself to yesterday.
Progress is step by step. Some days will feel slow, and that's okay.
Another tip, be kind to yourself. Mistakes are not failures. They're part of learning.
Yes, every time you make a mistake, your brain learns. You're training it.
Also, celebrate small wins. Even thinking one sentence in English without translating is a big achievement.
And remember, thinking in English is a skill, not a talent. Anyone can improve with practice.
So stay patient, keep practicing daily, and trust the process.
You're training your brain to work in a new way, and that takes time, but it's worth it.
Exactly. Keep going, stay motivated, and soon English will start to feel natural in your mind.
And that's the power of consistent practice and confidence.
All right, Julia, let's quickly recap what we learned today about thinking in English.
Yes. First, we talked about why thinking in English is difficult translation, fear of mistakes, and trying to be perfect.
Then we explained what thinking in English really means: simple thoughts, phrases, and connecting words to images.
We also shared practical techniques thinking in phrases, visual thinking, shadowing, and listening.
And we went through common mistakes and a simple daily routine to build your thinking skills.
Finally, we talked about motivation and confidence progress step by step. Be kind to yourself and celebrate small wins.
So now it's your turn. Start small, practice daily, and notice how your English thinking improves.
Yes, and if you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Also, share this with a friend who wants to think in English faster.
And remember, English is a skill you can train. Keep practicing and you'll see progress.
Thanks for listening to the English Learning Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone. Keep thinking in English.